Welcome to the Deep Dive. We are here to give you the ultimate shortcut to being well-informed. You've given us a pretty dense stack of sources this time.
It's a lot, yeah.
Articles, historical analyses, a ton of research. And our job is to pull out the key insights for you, focusing only on what the source material is claiming.
And today, we're definitely undertaking an ambitious one. The core material is from Louis B. Vega's analysis of biblical prophecy, history, and current geopolitics.
Right.
It's all centered on the book of Daniel, specifically Nebuchadnezzar's dream. And it really hones in on two concepts, the 10-token Confederation and something he calls the Caesar loyalty test.
So our mission today is pretty clear. We're going to unpack how this source connects four ancient empires directly to us right now.
It's a huge claim.
It's a huge claim that the Roman Empire never really fell, it just changed shape. And it all leads to this vision of a future world tied directly to what financial and biometric tech.
That's the argument. We're just digging into the mechanics of this interpretation.
Okay, so let's get into the foundation.
We have to start with the source itself. Daniel's interpretation of Nebuchadnezzar's dream, this vision of a huge statue.
Made of four different metals.
Exactly, and a parallel vision of four ferocious beasts.
So this statue, according to the analysis we've got, it's not just a series of historical kingdoms, it's a whole system of power. What's the basic framework here?
The premise is that these are four continuous world empires that ruled over Israel. And this system, it lasts until a fifth, divine kingdom returns. The continuity is absolutely critical to the source's argument.
There's a clear pattern in the materials, right? A kind of degradation.
Absolutely. The status, the value of the metals, it all diminishes. It starts with a head of gold, which is Babylon.
Okay.
Then you get silver for Medo-Persia, bronze for Greece, and finally iron for Rome.
And the analysis says that iron stage, the Roman stage, it then transitions into something else.
It does. It becomes iron mixed with clay. And Vega links this directly to where we are right now, geopolitically. It represents the sort of scattered, weakened state of Roman influence, the Roman Diaspora.
And that decline in value that's mirrored with the beasts.
Yes, exactly. Starts with a majestic lion for Babylon, but it ends with this ferocious, non-specific kind of hybrid composite beast.
A monster that combines all the previous ones.
Right. It has the strength of the lion, the speed of the leopard, all of it rolled into one final terrifying empire.
Okay, now here's a detail in the source that really stood out to me, something I hadn't seen before. Vega claims the statue's dimensions are intentional.
Indeed.
Yeah.
This is a core part of his thesis. He argues the statue is divinely structured, that it's proportioned according to the golden ratio, phi.
And that's not just for aesthetics. It's supposed to be a code.
It's an encoding mechanism. Vega posits that the lengths of the body sections, the head, the chest, the belly, the legs, they actually correspond to the number of years each empire would last.
Wait, so you're saying the source claims there's a divine calculation built into the statue's body?
That's the precise claim.
So by applying the golden ratio, you could mathematically approximate the whole timeline and figure out when the final stage, the feet and toes, is supposed to kick in?
That's the idea, a built-in mathematical clock. And it all anchors back to this one point. The source is adamant that we are still in the Roman Empire dispensation. It's just devolving into its final form, the 10-token Confederation. The system is unbroken.
That idea of an unbroken system, that brings us right to the next section. This argument that Rome never actually died. How on earth does the source make that case when we all know Rome fell?
Well, the source argues it wasn't a collapse so much as a strategic shift of power.
A shift.
Yes. When the secular military empire weakened, it just moved its imperial crowns, its office, its whole administrative power over to its religious side.
To the papacy, the Vatican.
The papacy, exactly. This hinges on the dual role the Roman Caesar always held.
He wasn't just a general.
Not at all. He was also the Pontifex Maximus, the high priest of the Roman state religion. He was the defender of the faith, the supreme father of the land.
And the source says the Pope inherited that title?
In a Christianized form, yes. The Pope becomes the living legacy of Caesarship, the high priest of what the source calls the original Roman religion, which it claims just usurped the name of the church.
And when Vega analyzes the Vatican today, he makes a pretty provocative claim about what it actually does. He says it's not just a church.
No, the source is explicit. It describes the Vatican as a bank, a massive financial power, and claims it has the single greatest intelligence network on Earth.
That is a staggering claim. Better than the CIA or MI6. How does he even begin to support that?
It's all based on the global confessional system. The argument is that the sheer amount of personal, political, financial, All that information that funnels through billions of confessions over centuries. It
Wow.
gives the Vatican a depth of human intelligence that no state agency could ever hope to replicate. It's framed as this massive, almost unparalleled surveillance machine.
So that's the functional continuity. But then the source takes it a step further. It says this Roman legacy isn't just in Italy, it connects directly to the United States.
This is a really key part of the modern interpretation. The source sees the USA as the inheritor, a kind of parallel structure mirroring the Vatican's layout and its role.
What are the specific parallels he cites, the architectural stuff?
There are several. First, that the area for the capital, before it was the District of Columbia, was supposedly called New Rome by some of the founders.
Interesting.
Then you have Congress on top of Capitol Hill, a direct parallel to Capitoline Hill in Rome, the old seat of government.
And visually.
The most obvious one is the Washington Monument, the obelisk. It's a mirror of the obelisk that stands right in the middle of the Vatican Plaza, both symbols taken from Egypt and used by Rome.
So the argument is a continuous line structural, functional, symbolic running from ancient Rome through the Vatican and right into Washington, D.C. today.
That's the line he draws.
Okay, if that's the legacy, let's look at the final stage, the devolution into this 10-toe confederation.
The 10 toes are interpreted as 10 nations with 10 kings or rulers, and their main job, according to the source, is to basically prepare the way.
To hand over power.
To willingly hand world power over to the little horn, the figure identified as the Antichrist.
And this ruler's origin is geographically specific, isn't it?
Very. The prophecy says he has to rise out of the Great Sea, which everyone agrees is the Mediterranean.
So he has to come from one of those 10 nations.
Yes, from either the western or eastern leg of the old Roman Empire. Vega is convinced that power has to revert back to Europe and the Med Basin, because that's the historical territory of the iron and clay feet, Rome 2.0.
And once that power is consolidated there, the source predicts a massive shift for the world's center of gravity.
Absolutely. The Antichrist, once he's the world leader, is predicted to move the center of all things financial, religious, political to Jerusalem.
A total recentering of the world.
A total recentering.
So what happens to the Vatican in this scenario? The entity, the source says, carried the Roman flame all this time.
The source predicts a catastrophic end for it. The argument is that the Antichrist will utterly destroy the papacy.
Why?
Because it will have served its purpose.
Yeah.
And at that point, it becomes a dangerous religious, financial, and intelligence competitor to the New World Order.
The source actually proposes a possible configuration for this revived Roman Empire, doesn't it? For the 10 toes.
It does. It suggests a balanced setup, reflecting the old East-West split. 5 Western toes countries like Italy, Spain, France, Germany, England.
And 5 in the east?
Right. 5 Eastern toes, maybe Greece, Turkey, Syria, Israel, and Egypt. The key is they must all be from the traditional Roman sphere of influence.
Which brings up a huge modern counterargument. What about BRICS? Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa? They represent a massive part of the world's population and are trying to replace the US dollar.
And the source addresses that directly.
Yeah.
Why isn't this massive power block part of the final 10?
And the reason is
The reason, according to Vega, is purely prophetic geography.
prophetic geography.
Yes. The argument is that based on the statue's typology, the 10 toes must come from the historical land of the Western and Eastern Roman Empire. Since the BRICS nations are outside that territory, Europe, North Africa, the Middle East, they can't be the 10 toes. They might oppose the system, but they can't be the final form of it.
So the ancient map overrides modern economics. That's a critical distinction. Okay, let's shift to the control mechanism, the mandatory part, this Caesar 2.0 loyalty test.
Which is the name, number, or mark of the beast.
Right. And to understand the future, the source says we have to look back at a very specific historical event, the persecution under the Emperor Diocletian.
Exactly. That's the blueprint.
What was the test back then? What did people have to do?
It was incredibly simple in action, but huge in its meaning. Romans just had to burn a tiny pinch of incense on an altar dedicated to Caesar.
And they had to say something.
Yes, there was a verbal declaration. You had to say, Caesar Dominus Noster Est.
Caesar is our Lord.
Caesar is our Lord. A public declaration of your ultimate allegiance.
And the economic piece of this is what really made it work.
That's what controlled society. If you complied, you were immediately given a certificate of loyalty. It was called a libellus.
Which means little book in Latin.
A little book.
Yeah.
And this slip of paper was your passport. It was your proof of loyalty, and you needed it to participate in the banking and financial grid.
Hmm.
to buy and sell. Without it, you were cut off.
So if you refuse, if you said Jesus is Lord instead.
You were instantly barred from all commerce. And that economic isolation would quickly lead to your arrest, trial, and very often a death sentence. The source is adamant this is the exact model for what's coming.
So if the libellus was the physical pass in the 3rd century, how does Vega translate this mark of loyalty into our world with our technology?
He argues the future mark won't be a piece of paper. It will be part of a global financial and banking network that uses blockchain technology for, unforgeable verification.
And then he makes a huge technological leap. He says this mark will be infused with your biometrics and placed inside your body. How is that even possible?
The material points to 2 specific technologies, mRNA and nanotech bots.
Nanobots.
Yes. The claim is these bots, maybe given through some public health program, would reassemble inside your body, in your cells, in your blood. They become the physical link between your biometric identity and the financial grid.
And this internal system would need some kind of trigger to work at, say, a grocery store.
The source proposes these nanobots will be activated by an external signal. It could be light, sound, or heat. An invisible internal scan at every point of sale.
So the paper libellus becomes an unavoidable internal biometric loyalty card.
Tied directly to your ability to exist in society.
This is a wild connection between ancient history and cutting-edge science.
Yeah.
So the ultimate consequence for refusing this new test, it's the same as it was for Diocletian's.
The source is absolutely unequivocal. Just like back then, anyone who refuses the modern loyalty test by declaring Jesus as Lord instead of Caesar 2.0 will be locked out of the system, unable to buy and sell, and will ultimately face a death sentence during what the source calls the Tribulation period.
Wow, okay, that was an incredibly intensive deep dive. We started with Daniel's ancient prophecy. We traced its alleged path through history Rome, the Vatican, the USA. We identified a proposed 10-nation group based on prophetic geography, and we ended with this argument that the ancient libellus, the loyalty test, is set to return using modern financial and biometric tech.
The whole core of this analysis is that the coming Antichrist won't just be some new tyrant. He will literally embody the spirit and, more importantly, the regulatory system of the Emperor Diocletian. So now you, the listener, you have the context from this source. We've talked about the historical libellus, a required certificate to even exist economically. So the final thought is this. If knowledge is power, how does understanding that historical parallel, that mandatory certificate, influence how you look at any emerging global tech or financial system that's designed to regulate who gets to participate?
A deeply thought-provoking parallel to consider as you navigate the modern world. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us. We'll see you next time.